Yes, Shrisha, very, very well said. It is more of like a dictionary of emotions. In fact, I think when I only knew like 6 universal ones at most, so it definitely got so much of, my own attention to emotions. So yeah, so the agenda here is that we'll be discussing top 3 ideas. Sorry. And then all of those ideas will have one prompt each that you will all be divided in different groups after the first 10 minutes where you can discuss those prompts. Sorry. The book for next month will be announced separately because sorry, Bhavna is the one who usually decides it. And since she's sick, so she's not been able to take out the sorry. So yeah, and once the book is decided, 5 winners from this community here, about 20 participants, excluding me, of course, will be given the book for the next book as a lucky prize. So let's dive in. She mentions Brene Brown she's known for one thing, it's basically emotional awareness. She's worked on this for quite some time. This has been the larger part of her career as well, where she talks about emotions and what it means, what each emotion means. And the point of it all is that when you have emotional awareness, you have better emotional vocabulary, and hence you become slowly become more intelligent about what those emotions are, what do they mean to you, where do they come from. And each emotion has like a past to it. Each emotion has a behavior attached to it, a background, a biography, and the biology which you feel in your body. So many a times if you see a behavior, you can feel that maybe someone else is going, maybe feeling sad or whatever. Say if someone is crying really badly, you may feel that they're sad, but it could be so many other things. It could be shame, anger, frustration, and so on. So each of those behaviors may, and you're right to sort of understand and assume how much ever you already know, but it's good to be curious and ask people and sort of build connections using this vocabulary and creating that space where they can express themselves, because that helps you and them. So essentially, the idea is revolving around giving yourself a chance to understand your emotions better. And in turn, you may be able to understand other people's emotions better as well. Because a lot of times, I think we can safely assume that every one of us may not have had the luxury of expressing our emotions freely as we grew up as kids. It's slowly when you sort of understood how much were you able to express as a child, and as you grew up and realized that it comes out differently and it feels different and there's a story behind it. So all of these combined together gives you a chance to be curious about what all emotions are you feeling at a certain particular time, and gives you the chance to learn that very well, and manage that as you move forward in life. So these are the 87 emotions, and she has very well categorized in multiple forms, and sort of helps us navigate each of these emotions. That if suppose we feel when we feel like something's beyond us, it could be a spectrum of emotions we cannot instantly may not be able to pinpoint. And each of those points in that spectrum has a depth to it, has a story to it. Like maybe we feel curious, maybe we feel surprised, and maybe we also feel confused. It can be any part of the spectrum. So this, and like the number of emotions, the number of categories she's come up with, is so that we can understand what part of this emotional map are we on when we're feeling, say, shame or compassion or despair, and why do they mean different things? Because they obviously don't have an exact same meaning. They all have a different connotation, a different feeling, a different story to it. So what do we feel when we truly feel that? What does it really bring out in us? It is her idea is to obviously bring a greater awareness to what you feel and why you feel it, and sort of be able to understand, because the larger understanding you have, and it's often argued that being aware is not enough, you will still feel the emotions, and that's true. You will not necessarily, awareness will not take you away from any unpleasant emotions. It will just give you an identification of that, so you know how to manage them better, instead of running around in your emotions and letting them control you in the larger run. So the first question in the breakout room that we would love for you to discuss is that what are some set of emotions that you struggle with in identifying them or dealing with them, or just generally understanding what they mean to you. So this will be the first question in the breakout room. Moving on, one of the ideas that she discusses greatly is sadness, and sadness is, she's like a spectrum of sadness, and mentions that they're not the same. So being sad is not the same as being depressed, because depression is a more, it's a more clinical condition, and can stay for a longer period of time. And as you shift from sadness to depression, or if you have different forms of sadness, such as anguish, which is a sharp pain, which is an intense sharp pain, which makes you feel a lot of things together, and hopelessness and despair, which are again very similar but not the same. You can understand it as, say, hopelessness maybe the cause of despair, but despair is more long-term, and it makes you, just the absence of hope is when you feel despair. But hopelessness may not necessarily mean as despair, because it is a more causing feeling. And which is why she brings the topic of hope as not an emotion, rather a skill, because learning or believing in yourself and finding that hope and faith in stressful times, in difficult times, is something very intangible, but helps you get through. And you can cultivate it by, different methods and strategies. And some of them may be, being real with yourself, being accepting of your strengths and limitations, and hence creating goals, or having dreams which can be ambitious as well, but at the same time reaching them in a more realistic manner. And believing in yourself has a lot to do with hope, which, say, for moments when, for example, when I've, say, at a meeting or in some work or presentation, you have not done well, and you feel sad about it, and you feel like you've repeatedly not done well, and you start to lose hope. But if you start looking inwards about what it is that belongs with you and is a lifelong skill, hope, create your goals in a manner where you can reach your dreams, and sort of like bring the best version of yourself. I think that is, she mentions that it is more of a skill, and than an emotion. And despair is something that she mentions as well, that she sort of asks you questions and sort of gives you this a little bit of prompt, where when you feel despair, there are so many things that can make you feel that there's no hope left in you or in the world, and many a times it can be internal or external. So sometimes, to get that awareness that she talks about and she's known for, is to ask yourself certain questions which bring larger context. And I think what's important to recognize is that context means everything. Every emotion has a context, and without which it doesn't exist. So is that feeling of, or complete lack of hope, is it permanent, or is it for a particular period of time? Is it affecting a certain part of my life or certain area in my life, or is it something that I feel it's very much, because a lot of times you may feel that there are certain difficult times, say for example losing someone, that is permanent, and that does impact your life in the larger sense. But it also gives you hope, gives you the chance to sort of move on and sort of learn to live without that person. And the third question is it me who's personalizing it, or is there an aspect of internal personalization that is taking place, or is it entirely out of my hands that I can't do anything about it? So understanding these questions and the depth they carry gives you the deeper meaning of why you may feel despair at a certain time, and how you can sort of learn to be compassionate with yourself at that time, giving, I won't say like reasons, but just the background needed to understand where that emotion's coming and rooting from. So since she provides a lot of strategies as well in the book, we would also love for you to discuss some strategies you may have adopted even before the book, you start reading the book, that have sort of helped you manage your emotions or just deal with your emotions, especially those which are uncomfortable or cause a lot of pain. And I think the larger idea is also that emotions are very raw, especially when you instantly feel them, they're very raw. And to control them is something that is not in our hands. And many times it's never in our hands. So to understand them is probably the best way, and sort of um, the needed way to cope with your emotions, to cope in a way that is healthy for you, for the most pleasant ones and also the ones which are not pleasant. So we move on from the other spectrum to the other spectrum of happiness and joy, which again, she tries to differentiate between emotions, trying to give you a larger clarity about identifying those particular emotions, particularly happiness and joy, which are not the same. So happiness you may feel is a more long-lasting emotion, which is more blanket spread in your life, which comes as a feeling of, your life going well, or certain things going as per what you thought it would be, and certain experiences that have made you feel like you're on the right path. You feel more in tune with yourself and what you and your internal and external world. So it is more inward, I would say, like it is more about ourselves that we feel and we obviously feel happy for other people as well. But when we feel happiness for a larger period of time, or in a way that has spread for the larger duration, it usually comes from a feeling from within. A feeling of happiness has roots to help you feel more satisfied in life as well. Whereas joy is more intense. Joy is more of a feeling that comes together in a larger quantity. And most of the time you might feel it outwards. For example, if you see for a newborn baby that you have, you might feel a lot of joy particularly at the time you've given birth, and it is coming from a place that you feel internally as well, but it has a lot of external factors contributing to it. It also comes from places where you can connect with others, and it gives a larger feeling of gratitude and appreciation for whatever the reason you are feeling joy. So one question you can discuss in the group is, what does make you feel joyful? What brings that intense emotion of joy in your life? And that may even give you the insight about a few things that can uplift you, especially during times when you feel sad and maybe things which are out of control and you're not able to get out of the rut. But some things, for example, a lot of us might feel happy and feel intense joy while taking care of someone else, or have hobbies that bring so much joy. For me particularly, it's always having plants in my life, growing plants, and having greenery in my life. It could be a lot of things like exercising on an everyday basis, or going to that favorite restaurant that sort of brings an intense joy of taste in your life. So these are the three questions that you will be discussing in your respective rooms. And we usually have book fairies. Earlier, we used to find volunteers to take the group forward, but this, I mean, we have recently started making it more impromptu. And these are the questions that you will see on the screen. Oops, that. And just give me a minute where I will just make. Sorry. So these, the breakout room will be for 30 minutes and the screen will be there. Maybe the person with the shortest name can lead the group. That may be a nice way to sort of start the discussions. And you will see a prompt on your screen anytime now. So just accept it so that you will be taken to your respective breakout room. And if you can't see it, just let me know. I will help you out. Oops, my bad, sorry.